the last words here of the gospel reading today, which can be misunderstood. And it's continuing from the patriarch's message and from what Bishop Ziziola of blessed memory has to say in condemnation of the church. So the last line here reads, "For God sent the Son into the world not to condemn the world, but that the world may be saved through him." Now, in Greek it says, right, "Εις τον κόσμο," into the world, "Inakrineto kosmo," not to judge the world or condemn the world, but to sothi o kosmos di αυτού, save the world through him. The important thing here is that the word kosmo in Greek can have several meanings. It can refer literally to the world, to all of creation, to everything that we see. But equally so, it can refer to just the people that are in it. We can say in Greek, "Βλέπεις ότι έχουμε κόσμο σήμερα." We don't have the world here, but we have people here. So it can be expressed in either way. What our patriarch says, and what John Zizioulas says, is that we have forgotten the secondary meaning of the Greek word kosmo, is that we see it only as salvation of us as people, that we are better than creation, and that creation does not need to be saved. This is not what Jesus says, and this is not what our liturgy says. Throughout our liturgy, we are constantly saying, thank God for these gifts. We offer to you these gifts. The holy gifts are for the holy. What gifts? We're talking about us? Are we talking about we? No. The gifts are those materials of creation that are essential to our liturgy. The bread and the wine is a central part. It has been since the beginning of the early church. Why? Because in the early church, the thought was that matter is evil and people are good. And so God, the Father, does not create the world. They demiurge, or demiurgia, which is literally creator in Greek, is the one who created all of this evil world, and we have to rise above it. And that's what the purpose of Christ is to lift us spiritually out of all of this. And the church said, no, that is not the belief that we as Christians have, which is why in the creed it says, I believe in one God, the Father Almighty, that is God the Father. And notice what it says next, the creator of heaven and earth, of all things visible and invisible. This was put into the creed so that we would understand that what God created in the cosmos, in the world, is good and worthy to be saved. This is what Jesus is saying, to save the world. And that's why this line is in here, to combat one of the first heresies of the church, which was, this world is evil, and we are spiritual beings, or we are striving to be spiritual beings, and this is now what we are attaining for. What Bishop John Zizioulas says is, what has happened in the West is the forgetting of the gifts. That now liturgy only becomes about remembering the sacrifice of Christ. Certainly that is a part of our liturgy. Certainly that is a part of what we do. But then where do all these other things fit in? We thank you for these gifts. The holy gifts are for the holy. Where does that fit in with now what Christ offers to us? It's because God sent his Son not just to save us, but to save all of creation. What do we say at the funeral? From ashes you came, and to ashes you shall return. Meaning that we are part of this world. And what Bishop Zizioulas is saying is that the West has forgotten that part, so that liturgy becomes only a spiritual edification and a spiritual saving. Save my spiritual self. Whatever happens to this world, who cares? Blow it up, destroy it, nuke it, who cares? As long as my spiritual self gets into heaven, we're all set. And this is not who we are. And Bishop Zizioulas goes on to say is that the church is to blame for part of this problem that we have with this disconnection from creation. Because rather than work in harmony with our children, science and technology, what we have said is that no, science can go and do whatever they want, and we don't have to guide them. And so science and technology have lost the anchor of truth that they needed. And we have what we have today, is we have science and technology that runs amok. Because it always had this connection. Those who believe today that the church has nothing to do with science and technology, and that science and technology has nothing to do with the church, don't know their church history. They are ignorant of church history. We have always embraced, as Orthodox, embraced science and technology and what it can do, but always under the guidance and obedience of her mother. And her mother is the church. She is the one who guides and instills the ethics and the morals that are so necessary. But if the church steps away from her responsibility and allows now science and technology to determine herself as God, then Bishop Zizioulas says that is the church's fault. So we have to be very careful, because this is a significant difference between the East and the West, between Orthodox Christianity and Western Christianity. Because there is creeping back in this idea that the world is not good and that we are the only ones who are worth saving. And the Orthodox theology has always been that God the Father is the creator of heaven and earth. And that together, as the church being the guide and science and technology being the revelation of that which comes from God, work in harmony. And when that harmony becomes disrupted, then we have the situation that we have today. And without that reunion, Bishop Zizioulas says there is little chance that we can recover the damage that we have done. Because we see the world for our purpose. It serves us. Ergo, we can use it in whatever utilitarian fashion we decide as gods is appropriate to us. And so, as I said, Bishop Zizioulas places the fault of this departure, that's right, that's exactly what I say. He places the fault of this departure upon the church, ignoring her responsibility to her child of science and technology. So I'm going to close this by saying this cannot be understood as saying that the church does not support science and technology. That is not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that the church has always, since her history, has been working in harmony with science and technology. And in our liturgies, in the West, we have forgotten the idea that bread and wine and creation is just as important to us as we are in terms of salvation. And that Jesus Christ, of his own words, said, I have come now to save the world, the cosmos, in the idea of it being the world of all of creation. One point that I forgot to bring out is that this is one of the main reasons why the monastic community is so important. Because in the West, we have disregarded the monastics as something of an old time that is no longer valid for us because we're smart people and we don't need monks and all that kind of stuff. But what Bishop John says is that in the monastic community is where you find what is the harmony between man and creation. You don't see monks running around and stepping on spiders and setting up bait traps for mice. All you see there, and in fact, you don't see any meat there either. You see a community, an isolated community, a microcosm that knows what is the proper relationship between man and his created world. And that's our example. That's one of the things that Orthodoxy can offer to this world, this fallen world, that has forgotten what that relationship looks like. As I was celebrating liturgy, as a message from God telling me or reminding me of this, there was a fly that was going around, and my instinct was to kill the fly. And I was able to overcome that instinct and just shoo the fly away and have him go somewhere else. And he did. He went, or she, I don't know, went somewhere else. So I just wanted to close by making sure that we understand the importance of having our monastic community, and that's one of the significant spiritual benefits that we receive from having a monastery, having monks.